Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm 𝙎𝘍𝘍𝘍. Well, in our march through history, let's go back to the early to mid-19th century in America and explore the man who would serve as the 7th president of the United States. Now, he's a controversial figure. He was a tough, brilliant military man, and he was an unflinching leader of the country whose efforts would actually earn him a place on our $20 bill. Now, some simultaneously accuse him, though, of radical racism. Let's sift through the opinions and get to the source of the 7th U.S. President, Andrew Jackson. Now, Jackson is known by many as the first real Southerner to serve in the White House. Even though several Virginians, such as Washington and Jefferson, had served before him, most of them were outspoken critics of slavery and tended to be at least in the middle ground on that issue for sure, but not Jackson. He was every bit a Southerner in the sense of owning slaves, as well as his sense of honor. Now, in 1806, he famously challenged another man to a duel after this man had allegedly insulted Jackson's wife, Rachel. So in the duel, Jackson was shot in the chest, nearly killing him, but somehow he took his free hand to plug the wound and then shot his foe, killing him. Jackson was a ferocious war hawk who would serve in the U.S. military in the War of 1812, and he rose to the rank of Major General and actually led the Americans to one of the most important victories in the war, the Battle of Orleans. So later he entered the political sphere where he rose up the ranks in the newly formed Democratic Party. And this was really the contrasting political faction to the Whig Party, which was in many ways the heir apparent to the old Federalist faction. Jackson lost a very contentious election to John Quincy Adams, in which he claimed a corrupt bargain of sorts had taken place, where he actually won the electoral and popular votes, but lost in a runoff election. Jackson returned 4 years later and rode the frustration of his controversial loss to a win over John Quincy Adams in the 1828 election. Jackson would become one of the presidents in American history who would wield significant power over the nation, particularly with his veto power, which he used extensively. Still, his leadership over the nation would strengthen it on an international stage. Now, we have to talk about the slavery issue because it's a controversial subject for Jackson, who never seemed to repent of it at any point in his life and at one time owned over 100 slaves. Some could argue that this policy actually brought the nation closer to civil war, and sure enough, civil war would happen several generations later. Regardless of these flaws, though, serious as they were, Jackson was one of the most important men to lead this country, not just on the battlefield, but in the White House as well. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History. Thanks for watching this video. For more content like this, make sure to check out some of the other videos we have on this channel.